What's up, everybody? Bro Trio here, and there's nothing we like more than a little more of what we love. I mean, as long as it's not necessary, but you telling me I can get a meal and I can get dessert after, that's great. And that's what we're talking about today. That's DLC. So, day one DLC, or DLC that is literally like in the code and you pay to unlock it, that's bullshit. What we're talking about is cool expansions, and it still gets a little fishy, like when they announce it before the game comes out. That's when I'm like, But these are our top 10 favorite DLC, so we like it when a really great game adds a little cherry on top, and we're going to talk about it today. Gonna kick it off with a company that is relatively new to DLC, and inconsistently good at it. We're talking about Nintendo with The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, the Champion's Ballad, and, no, just the Champion's Ballad.
Yeah.
The sword one wasn't big enough. I forgot there were two separate packs.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was mainly just some
It was
outfits that were cool callbacks that had some cool talents or abilities.
Yeah.
But then the Trial of the Sword was awesome, but...
Oh, it was It was a big Eventide Island, but it just wasn't enough. And Champion's Ballad was a lot more. You had, like, an extra dungeon, more shrines.
No, you had a dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a real...
It was like a Zelda dungeon.
Like a Zelda dungeon, and one of the better ones. Like, it's a very good dungeon. It still had the same, like, Sheikah aesthetic, but it was, like, the puzzles were more unique, and it was kind of like a combination of all the common Zelda themes to some extent. And you get a fucking sick motorcycle at the end.
Hell yeah. That's the best part. But there's also the boss fight with Maz Kosha.
Oh my god.
That's unexpectedly awesome.
So awesome. One of the... Again, Breath of the Wild, not all the boss fights were great. Like, a few of the Ganons I thought were pretty cool. But they were just Ganons, and that kind of bothered me. And aesthetically similar, but I like the Thunder one, and I like the Water one. I like all of them okay, but those two were my favorites.
But they're not as cool as the decrepit old man.
A decrepit old man. No, and
you finally made it, and he's just sitting there. He's just like, congratulations,
when that
here.
crusty old fist starts to
gonna
clench,
whoop that ass.
That crusty old fist clenches. You see his ash falling off. It is just so gross. Then you gotta fight this zombie man.
Yeah, you have to prove yourself to be the hero.
Yeah.
He's everything.
Hey, you want my motorcycle? You gotta beat my ass first.
If we were talking about just content that happened, Shovel Knight will probably be way higher on the list, but unfortunately for Shovel Knight, Aaron and Scotty have not played Shovel Knight's DLC, but Yacht Club Games came out of the gate swinging. Like, it was on Kickstarter, and it's like, hey, we're gonna make this cool-ass Shovel Knight game. And then everybody started backing it, and they were like, what if we made some more of it? And then they kept backing it, and they were like, what if we did more? And they just kept backing it, so they just kept doing more. And they ended up with Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope, the inaugural Shovel Knight game. It was glorious. You get a Plague Tale is the rat one. Plague of Shadows.
Yeah.
With Plague Knight. Wildly different. Like, it's not about shoveling anymore. It's about plaguing and doing alchemy bombs and stuff with a shockingly deep, like, alchemy system where you just mix a bunch of shit together and make bombs. It's awesome. Plague Knight was way cooler than I expected it to be. The absolutely badass Spectre of Torment, where you get to play as Spectre Knight, the cool badass of the Lich Graveyard, where you have a scythe and you can do like weird shit where like you can dash to the sides in the air and slice at stuff. It's kind of like the Wind Step from The Messenger, but
that's cool.
Like Grim Reaper looking knight.
King Knight got one too, right?
King Knight got the King of Cards DLC, where not only does he play wildly different than all the rest, but they also implemented original card game into Shovel Knight. So not only do you have that, like the card game, and King Knight's motivation is just so fucking stupid because he's King Knight and he's a just bastard that's full of himself. And he just wants to be the absolute best at the card game, so he's going and beating everybody's ass that's better than him. And then you top it all off with Shovel Knight Showdown, this wild, out of left field, like, Smash clone starring only Shovel Knight. And it actually plays a lot, like, better than you may expect. Like, and I expected it to be good, but it's way more fluid than I thought it would be. The roster of characters is so vast. It's not only just Shovel Knight and all the rest of the knights, but you get, like, the Horsemancer, which is the guy that, like, sells you the items and stuff. You get, like, the Trapple Acolyte, and, like, a bunch of weird-ass NPCs you
I haven't
can play
looked into
as.
this one very much, but
Yeah.
because unfortunately, I thought it was just play Shovel Knight again with a different character. I didn't know they like reworked the gameplay and stuff, so I'm definitely gonna have to get into that because I've looked into it a little bit and everything looks awesome.
They made it even better because if you got Shovel Knight originally on like Wii U, you could buy it as DLC, but now they re-released it with the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is basically the season pass. So you buy Treasure Trove, you get all of it, and it is probably one of the biggest bangs for your buck you can get in video gaming.
Something that video games can do that a lot of other media can't is let you experience an alternate timeline as the bad guy. And Gears of War ROM Shadow does exactly that because, well, it's not actually an alternate timeline. It's the real timeline. You're just seeing what ROM was up to during the first game. And he's just a powerhouse. Like, playing as General ROM, nothing stands against you. You're kicking cars out of the way, you're breaking through barricades, you're commanding the Krill.
That's the coolest part. Like, you just point like he has a gun, but he doesn't.
Yeah, like you just point and they die. You kick, like you just kick so much ass. I mean, unfortunately, you have to kill Kim, but
that's a necessary sacrifice to command the Krill.
Yeah, that's canon.
And General Rom, he was just such like a badass like character in Gears 1 that they brought him back in Gears 3 as DLC.
Yeah, I think he's still the coolest bad guy in Gears of War. Yeah. Like Scourge or whatever, he was kind of cool, but like
it would have been cool if they did like a Far Cry-esque DLC where it was like a greatest hits of all the bad guys and you got to play as Scourge and shit too.
That would be cool, but
just playing as General Rom, my god.
Yeah, if you had to pick one, Rom is the choice because he's cool, he's badass, and he's krilling it.
A genre that is relatively newish to DLC, but does it like better than most, is the open world genre. Like, relatively speaking, in gaming's lifespan, this is a pretty new concept for DLC, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it can toe that line between being good and bad, like, very easily.
Horse armor.
Because sometimes you get horse armor, sometimes you just get, like, a shit ton of fetch quests, and that's it. But every now and then, you get the Frozen Wilds from Horizon Zero Dawn, where you get to go up north into Yellowstone Park and see Old Faithful and what she looks like in these days because she's a volcano ready to erupt.
Is Old Faithful a robot?
Old Faithful is the geyser.
No, I know. Did they make Old Faithful into a robot? Oh,
no.
Damn.
Hephaestus has made a little house in there. Hephaestus is the AI, one of the 12 that went rogue, and he's the one that makes all the robots. So he's getting more ideas, going insane, trying to, like, up with this other AI that's like controlling the geothermal like volcano and making sure it doesn't erupt and everything. Cyan, that, and he's just like, you know what would be cool? Bears. And then there's bears. There's like these weird dingo like scorcher enemies. They're like just wild dogs basically, and they are way more aggressive than anything else. There's also the daemon, that are these little watchtowers that will infect nearby machines and like amp them up so that they're stronger than other machines. You can't override them, and they have different attacks too. So Frozen Wilds not only adds more plot, more machines, new ways to fight the machines, but it also does a lot of quality of life improvements, which is something every open world DLC needs to do, because no matter how perfect a game is, there's always something that could be just tweaked a little bit better after like the entire public has had their hands on it. And one of those in Horizon was that you can now buy a skill that lets you pick shit up from your horse instead of getting off, picking it up, and getting back on. And that was so like beneficial that it just made its way into Horizon Forbidden West just naturally. That's just what it is. You don't have to spend a skill point on it. And it just culminated in... Actually, I take it back. Quality of life isn't the best thing. The best thing to include in open world DLC is a power trip, because you get these 3 elemental, like, god-killing machine-killing weapons in Frozen Wilds. Like, you get a fire, like, flamethrower that you can shoot, like, explosions and shit. You get an icicle railgun, and you get a thunder launcher where you just, like, launch electricity at people. It's basically a flamethrower, but for electricity. All 3 are, like, wildly, like, destructive.
Frozen wildly.
They just make you feel like an absolute badass when you get them. And it's at the end, and then if you actually go through the rest of the campaign, like, it is easy breezy.
Mass Effect 2 is incredible. But initially, if there was one thing I was disappointed with, it was Liara's lackluster involvement. She was like she was a secretary kind of thing. It was what it seemed like. Or no, she had a secretary. She's just like in an office, and then you prod deeper. She's like, "Yeah, I'm hunting the Shadow Broker." I was like, "Oh fuck, okay, that's a little cooler." But then it never really gets brought up again until the DLC, Mass Effect 2: The Lair of the Shadow Broker. Holy shit! This is such a cool action movie of a DLC. Like, it's not as much of an action movie as one of the Mass Effect 3 ones with the clone Shepard and it got all crazy. But it's just like, as soon as you start it, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like, you think Liara's dead for a little while and she comes back. You're trying to save her friend, and he turned her into the Shadow Broker, and she's figured out where the Shadow Broker is. Turns out he's on a ship in like on the atmosphere of this planet that's surrounded by like near a black hole. And he had this ship specially made, and it might not even been him. Shadow Broker is a title, and we're not sure when he stole it from the previous Shadow Broker, unless it's deep buried in the lore somewhere and I didn't read it. But it's a planet that is like, you know, like Jupiter or whatever, has like constant storms. It's like that. Oh. So it's got all these lightning rods built into it to catch the lightning, because if it didn't, it would just tear the ship apart. So it captures the lightning and then releases it. So when you're on the Shadow Broker ship, you got to watch out for that, because you'll just be walking around and lightning just explodes everywhere because it has to release it. Or if enemies are near it, you can just shoot one of the towers and everyone just dies.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was an insanely cool DLC, and there's a lot more that I'm not getting into, but by the end of it, you fight a creature that no one has ever seen in the Mass Effect universe until now. It's just like they talk about
like
the Shadow Broker.
Fans haven't seen it, or like the people in Mass Effect world haven't seen it?
Both. They were hyping this guy up because, like, you ask Liara's companion who the Shadow Broker is. He's like, I don't know, but he's big. That's all he said.
That's wild.
So I'm thinking he's maybe a Krogan or something. No, it's bigger than a Krogan. He might have said it's bigger than a Krogan, but it's this giant, like, I don't know, like 7 foot tall, really thick, like gorilla man with a grinder for a face. I don't know. It's a weird looking alien. But so the Solarians landed on their planet to try to like bring them to galactic culture, as is like the tradition in this galaxy, and they just murdered everybody that landed. So they were like, we're done with them. And all that Liara could figure while she was theorizing, and this pissed it off so bad, she was like, you were either brought up to be someone's slave or someone's pet. And it was like, got pissed. He had to fight this thing, and it had a completely invincible shield that it had bought, because it's the Shadow Broker. Infinite resources, basically. But every time you manage to take down the shield by exploding the lightning like core on top of it, and at a certain point, you just had to fist fight his ass.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome. And then you kill him, and all his agents are like, "What's the next move, Shadow Broker?" And Liara just fucking steps on in, takes over. Liara's Shadow Broker now, baby. And that had pretty cool ramifications for Mass Effect 3, and probably will for Mass Effect 4 too. We'll just have to see. But Lara the Shadow Broker is excellent. Definitely get the remaster collection of Mass Effect. It's on there. It is great. Similar to Breath of the Wild, The Witcher 3 got 2 excellent DLCs. Now, Hearts of Stone almost made it, but it wasn't. Gontar O'Dim is amazing and the best villain in the series, in my opinion, but he wasn't cool enough to completely take over Blood and Wine. Blood and Wine was a really cool story and had some pretty cool villains in its own right. It's all about, like, the high vampires and shit, and okay, you think low vampires are bad? The high vampires are basically demigods that you have to deal with. They're completely unkillable from anything, basically. Like, one of them got melted down into, got disintegrated, basically, and they put his remains in, concrete molding and just left him there so he couldn't regenerate. And then eventually he managed to get out. Someone let him out because they found out he was there. Wow. But, they just don't die. And I can't remember, maybe they can kill each other, but don't quote me on that. I think if a higher vampire dies, it has to be from another high vampire, maybe. But, so, Geralt just can't kill the bad guy. It's not going to happen. He can stop him, but that's about it. But it's about a super powerful vampire and another super powerful vampire that's Geralt's friend that's trying to stop him. And you get a whole new countryside. And it's almost generic fantasy kind of stuff with Geralt in there, and it's all pretty, and there's princesses and towers and tournaments and whatnot, and Geralt's Geralt's pretty much just the whole time this is ridiculous. And he's been there before, I think, in the books and shit, because people knew him from there. The Duchess knew him and had an affair with Dandelion and was asking Geralt about him, and she said she was gonna kill him, but you could tell there was still something there. I think he would have got out of it. But it came with new hunts, new excellent boss fights. The first time you fight the vampire ladies from the trailer, the Bruxa, they're in that DLC. They weren't in the base game, and they're always cool to fight. And by the end of it, you have straight up a vampire war. Against humans that Geralt's in the middle of trying to stop. So you're chopping up Bruxay left and right as you're running through this ruined ass city that the vampires attacked to get to the bad guy and fight him. And he turns into this giant Van Helsing vampire bat form. And you just have to go up against this unkillable thing. And the story choice at the end, I believe I think you can not let your friend kill him. And that's the good ending or whatever. But I'm this guy's literally a monster. Maybe we should just kill him. But it was just awesome. It was a giant area, longer than some actual games, the story was. It was just so cool, and it highlighted pretty much everything I like about The Witcher. I like most of The Witcher, but the monster hunts are my favorite part. And all this was hunting down a monster that's basically a demigod.
Speaking of straight-up fantasy, Bunkers and Badasses is a great role-playing game in the middle of the Borderlands universe, and we get to experience that in Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. You wouldn't think it would work as well as it does, but it really, really works, because Tiny Tina's the DM. That should already throw up some warning flags that you're in it for a good time, because she's kind of making stuff up. Every now and then she'll throw an enemy at you that you can't kill because it's way over leveled, and your player character is pause, and they're just Tina, we can't fight this thing, and she's okay, he's just a regular skeleton now, and it's okay, whatever.
Had some of the best Mr. Torg moments.
Oh yeah, go and blow up the ocean. It's also really cool to literally see in-game universe, the landscape changing based off of Tina's story she's telling. Because she's yeah, it's nighttime. Wait, no, I want it to be daytime. And then, you literally see the sun and the moon swap places. Is wild. but there's also a lot of like unique aspects to it. Like I know for a fact there's a legendary grenade called the chain lightning or lightning bolt or something. It's not even a grenade. You literally just zap a lightning bolt at them. So they took like the existing setup of Borderlands and like made it fantasy somehow.
Yeah, it's fantasy guns.
Yeah, and it's even that
now.
like it's a reference to a D&D video. No, LARPing.
Yeah, the LARPing.
Where the people were just like lightning bolt, and the characters say that when they use that grenade, or like there's a awesome legendary shotgun that shoots out 3 like swords.
Yeah,
and they decided to tell a story about Tina dealing with her grief for losing Roland too.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's
it's just in there. Like I was like, Jesus, all right.
Yeah, like I was expecting just a goofy fun time, and then now I'm very sad, and you got real with me for a second.
Yeah, but then you can just go feed Butt Stallion and she shits out a gun.
If there's one thing that Monster Hunter does right, it's hunting monsters. But if there's a second thing that it does right, is usually DLC. Because Monster Hunter brings in substantial DLC when they do it.
They don't even call it DLC, they call it the Massive Expansion.
Yeah, because
like they don't refer to it as like, this is Sunbreak, the Monster Hunter DLC. They're like, this is Sunbreak, the Massive Expansion to Monster Hunter Rise. I think they even did that with Iceborne with Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, and it's like Frozen Wilds and Blood and Wine. It's a whole new game basically.
Oh yeah.
Monster Hunter, that means you're literally starting over though.
Yeah. And we're specifically talking about Sunbreak in this entry because we liked Monster Hunter Rise, but Sunbreak just took it up to a whole other level. And the new monsters were cool, the returning monsters were really cool, and the new forms of old monsters was very, very unexpected.
Yeah, you got Heart Gold Rathalos and Soul Silver Rathian.
Yeah.
And new armor, new weapons, new attacks. It's all you could really want.
Not only new attacks, like you can do switch skills now, so you can swap out your attack loadouts on the fly mid-hunt.
Oh yeah.
Like there's so much like random like quality of life stuff like I never knew I wanted until they put it into Sunbreak, and I'm just like, I can't go back to regular Monster Hunter Rise now. Like it is all about all these quality of life upgrades they've added.
Yeah, like you mentioned the switch skills. I forgot that was not originally in the game because
it just flows so naturally.
It's implemented so well that you would think that was the plan from the get-go. That's really what we're talking about here is it's not just more monster hunts or more of this. It's like a whole second chapter to the first game.
All other downloadable contents on this list have some form of narrative. Save for one, and that's because there's a whole fuckload of characters because Super Smash Bros. Ultimate didn't have one, it had 2 Fires Passes with 11 characters, 12 if you count Piranha Plant, which I do because he is like he was great. Like the first DLC of the game. And they were just like, I don't know, here's a Piranha Plant.
At least he was free. But I mean, I'm not good with him, but I love him. I don't even mind.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Awesome. You can't. It's hard to guard against him because you're not used to getting attacked by a plant. But Piranha Plant is awesome. There's some characters in the Fighters Pass I wish I didn't have, but I don't hate that they're there. I just will never use them. Like starting off the first Fighters Pass, we got Joker. None of us are Persona fans.
Yeah.
I could take him or leave him. I like how he can jump in the air and shoot, but other than that, I don't really care. And then, shit, who was next? And then we take it a step farther from Persona to just all of Dragon Quest, because
you get so many characters out of that.
We get the hero. It all plays the same.
Different voice actors for all of them and everything.
It's wild how like in depth his mechanics are, and that's kind of the theme for all the DLC characters. Because Hero, you hit down B, you'd have a whole random assortment of spells you can do. You have a magic meter that depletes the more magic you do, and you gain it the more hits you do and stuff. Like, Hero basically is an awesome fighter, but then you throw in his magic and ability to do critical hits on smash attacks. Hero just zooms up to God tier.
And then, like, they have simpler ones, too, that they have a gimmick, but it's not, like that complicated. Then you have Banjo-Kazooie. And I don't think I've seen the internet united in happiness since as this much as with Banjo-Kazooie. Like, up to that point, none of us had even played Banjo-Kazooie, and we were friggin' stoked to see Banjo-Kazooie pop up. Because, I mean, that's an awesome get. That was impossible, so we thought.
Yeah, and it's just such a huge icon, too, because both of those franchises started on the N64. It was kind of thought, like, almost immediately, just like, Banjo-Kazooie would be kind of cool in Smash Brothers. And we finally got it.
And I think he's awesome. He fits my playstyle very well. And the one who fits my playstyle best, and he's my favorite DLC character, is the next one up. That's Terry Bogard. I love him so much. He has a simple little gimmick where you can do weird little combos when you're above 100%. And that's about it. Other than that, he's straight up just a bruiser with light projectile stuff. And that's me, baby. I love just up close and personal, kicking the out of people, and there's not too many better about that than Terry Bogard.
One that united the internet in a bunch of hate was Byleth.
Yeah.
Because Byleth was now, so everyone's like, another Fire Emblem character? Are you kidding me? But Byleth is actually pretty good, because they get a lot of, like, heavy-hitting moves. They have 4 different weapons to cycle through with their attacks.
It's not just another Marth, at least. Byleth, I thought, was a pretty interesting.
A very interesting dynamic.
Not to mention, they have a bow and arrow that can actually KO people. So that's cool in itself. And then we move on to Fires Pass 2. We start things off with Min Min from ARMS. Like, a weird, wild character, kind of split on the like fan backlash or love for that one, but I loved it.
Oh, I loved it too. Min Min's the best character in that game. She's got a dragon for one arm and noodles for the other. That's awesome. I love Min Min, and I think she's great in Smash.
Who I don't think is great in Smash, and I think was a wasted spot, was Steve. I do not like Minecraft. I don't like Steve. I don't like his gimmick. I don't like his look. I don't like anything about him.
Jesus.
I hate him.
I do like his gimmick because
I like
mining the materials and being able to place them and like integrate it into your moveset is cool to me.
Yeah, but
it's also
Pit and Charizard don't get to glide anymore. Why does this get to?
That's true.
I like his inclusion, but I don't like playing as him.
I hate all of it. So moving on to probably one of my second favorite DLC character, Sephiroth.
Yeah,
my guy.
That was out of left field. That's one of the better trailers too. He just cut Galeem in half.
Oh yeah.
As soon as we heard the first note of One Winged Angel, we lost it. It was awesome.
That was so cool. And he's so awesome. He's got a crazy projectile that, like, you charge it up and gets stronger, of course, but it also gets a shorter range, so it's like, it doesn't go as far, but you can, like, almost one-hit KO someone.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a counterattack that will attack regardless if someone attacks you and it counters or not, but if it does, it's stronger. He randomly, there's a system to get it, but he'll get his one-winged angel, and then he gets, like, a triple jump, and he gets stronger, he gets a crazy, like, more in-depth up B, and does more damage and crazy crap like that. Sephiroth,
he's awesome.
Is one of the best, like, versions of, like, a heavy character that, like, is semi-fast and has good range, too.
And he's not that, like, hard to knock out either. He's not heavy, but he kind of plays heavy. It's a weird combo.
Yeah. And then you get Pyra and Mythra.
The most controversial one.
Probably,
I don't think any of us were upset.
Not upset, not happy.
I didn't care either way. I like that she transforms, but
that's cool.
I like transforming double characters, so altering your playstyle based on who you're fighting is really cool, because one's faster, one's stronger.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And then They both complement each other well. Like if you can go whoop on someone's ass with Mithra and then change back to Pyro real quick, smash them, they're dead. And that's it. After that, we complete the fighting game mascots with Kazuya from Tekken.
I like him a lot. I really like him. He's the only heavy fighting game character. That 10-hit combo is great.
His trailer was even better.
Trailer was hilarious. F you, Captain Falcon, and just like throw him off, and Ganondorf and the Kirby one. It's just so good. And he turns into the devil, and that's really cool too.
Yeah, the trailers is actually one of the main reasons it's up this high, because not only is the Fighters Pass a cool idea and a cool concept, but they just nailed the execution.
Yeah, and
because the internet was watching and waiting.
Yeah, and
every time.
I mean, it's not just that. You get stages, music, all that shit. It's not just like the guy. It's more than that. It's
it all culminated in the ultimate Fighters Pass character with Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Like Banjo and Kazooie, everyone was like, "That's not gonna happen," but it wasn't impossible. Sora, everyone thought this was impossible.
Yeah.
He's tied up in Disney and Square, and it's never going to happen. But my God, did they make it happen. And he fights just like you would expect. He's a massive air fighter. He's light as shit, but he can do a lot of combos. And it is so true to the source game material.
There's not many air fighters in Smash. It was sorely overdue. He's great.
But if you can't tell by just how long we've been talking about it, we love Smash Brothers. Getting 12 more characters in addition to the already, what was it, like 70 or something like that? A wacky, like wild amount of characters. It's like literally everyone is here and we are all here for it.
Aaron talked about alternate timelines earlier, but this one actually is an alternate timeline. And how are you going to make a cowboy game cooler? You're going to throw zombies in, baby. I'm talking about Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. A giant, meaty DLC for one of my favorite games of that generation. I completely fell in love with Red Dead when it first came out. I didn't know what to expect. I'm not a big fan of Grand Theft Auto, but I was like, this just looks great. I have a great feeling about this. I was right. Red Dead Redemption's amazing, and then they released my favorite DLC of all time. And you don't just fight zombies. That's the majority of it. But you gotta kill the Chupacabra, the Sasquatches. You can mount and tame a unicorn,
and
the four horses of the apocalypse, and they all have powers. Like I think it's Death just kerplodes zombie heads when you hit them. And, War lights them on fire. That when you ride through with War or Death through the big gorge full of zombies, that is so satisfying every time. And there's little, like, if the cities are getting overrun, it lets you know, and if you don't go save them, they're just gone. Like, you can go to the city, but there's nothing there anymore. The city's dead. And it's a cool alternate story. It's all started by Seth, that fucking weird pervert from Red Dead Redemption 1. He steals this idol in Mexico, and it starts the zombie apocalypse, and you see zombie versions of a lot of the characters, including at the end, when John Marston dies, you get Zombie Marston, and you're just running around Zombie Marston. It's awesome. It's a really cool DLC, and for the life of me, I don't understand why Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't get anything, and Rockstar, I'll never forgive you for it.
So that's going to wrap up our video on our top 10 DLCs. Like Scotty said, it's always the cherry on top that everybody remembers. Like, the last impression has to be a good one, and more times than not, DLCs are the last impression you will have with a game. So let us know what your favorite DLCs of all time are in the comments. Did you like any of these ones? Because we sure as hell did. Let us know that in the comments too. And just stay tuned to Bro Trio for more content.